Welcome to Empire Building, the podcast where we talk about building big businesses and even bigger lives. I'm Kimber Lovett-Minkiti.
I'm Seychelle Van Poole.
And I'm Tiffany Fikes. And we are so excited to have you back on our second series about how to use your brain to really combat stress. Last week, we learned a lot about the major parts of the brain. You definitely want to go back and listen to that if you've not heard it yet. I will give you a quick overview, though, with a little hand model that we did. So you look at your hand and lay it out in front of you. Your wrist is your brain stem. You tuck your thumb into your palm. That's your amygdala or the limbic system that keeps you out of harm. And then you lay your fingers across your thumb into a nice little fist. And this is your prefrontal cortex that makes up your entire brain. And so we talked about the fact that when you flip your lid, your prefrontal cortex is coming offline. And we talked about the science and what all that looks like. But we realized that when that prefrontal cortex comes off, your body's coursing with adrenaline. You feel like you're under threat all the time. And so you can't live like that all day long. And so what we're going to talk about today is some really practical ways that we've learned or that science has proven for us to bring our prefrontal cortex back into alignment, really be integrated and be responding not like a 15-year-old or like a caveman, but like the wonderful, amazing business people that we are. So
that's right.
That is what we're going to do. We want to give you some things so that it can become second nature for how, when stress comes and my brain responds like this, what am I going to do?
That's right. So last week we gave you all the awareness. You're like, okay, now I recognize that I tense up, I hold my breath, like all the things that your body does when your brain is saying you're not safe, right? The lid is flipped. And ultimately what we want to do now is sort of take you to the next step. We have a 3-step plan. So when you feel like the threat is there, and our family therapist often says like, who's driving the bus right now? Like the 12-year-old, that 15-year-old right now is driving the bus. And that's never a good idea, right? So how do we get everything back into alignment? So breathe, ground, and respond. So we're going to walk you through these 3 steps to be able to get back into control.
So number 1 is breathing. And you may think, well, I breathe all the time.
I have to breathe. That's how I stay alive, Tiffany. Hello.
You're exactly right.
That's how I stay alive.
But I kind of stopped breathing. And I had always heard like breathing. Like, I don't know. I mean, ladies, when you were upset, even as a child, before they knew all this brain stuff, your parents were like, breathe.
I say it probably 5 times a day.
Yes.
Breathe.
Yeah. So I always thought it was because your brain needs oxygen. Like oxygen is what like makes you think. Ladies, it's something else. Isn't that fascinating? I know. I'm sure oxygen's good for your brain. But when you do something called belly breathing. So do y'all know what belly breathing is? See, y'all just did it.
I'm an excellent belly breather. Yes.
So when you belly breathe, your belly distends, like gets bigger. And what happens physiologically is like it physically calms your body because when you breathe your belly into your lungs, it hits your stomach, which hits your spine, which pushed pressure on the vagus nerve, which your vagus nerve is the longest nerve in your body. It goes down your spine and all the way up into your brain. And so by physically moving all the stuff in our bodies to hit this nerve, it connects to your brain and turns on the relaxation systems in your body. So it like blew my mind when I learned this. I mean, I'm such a nerd. I love learning stuff like this.
I just thought it was because I could be a better soprano if I used my belly breathing. I had no idea it was doing all of these pressure. Other things.
And even more, how you breathe. There's been studies that show like the science is out that how you breathe. It's not just breathing. It's not just belly breathing. But when you take longer to exhale than inhale, it signals to your nervous system that you're safe. So you breathe into your belly for 3 and out for 4. So it's funny, I like had learned this and last week, some of you know, I had my appendix out unexpectedly. And because I had learned about these triggers and like how to calm myself when I was like in that really intense pain, I was like, this is not an actual emergency. I can breathe and like calm my brain down. And so I did this vagal nerve activation breathing where it's like 3 in, 4 out. And after doing that for like 5 minutes and getting no relief, I was like, maybe this is an actual emergency. Maybe because I am not getting any calmer right now.
Wow.
Yeah. But here, let's do it. I mean, when I said breathing, you both did it. Yeah. So let's all do the 3 in, 4 out. So I'm going to count. So it's going to be really hard for me to breathe. But okay. So in for 3. 1, 2, 3. Out for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. How do you feel?
My eyebrows are not as lifted. Like I actually do feel calmer.
Yeah. So you do that 2 or 3, like 4 times. Yeah. And it signals to your brain. It's the way you can use your body to tell your brain that you're safe. Because if you were in true danger, there's no way that you would be exhaling longer than you're inhaling. And so your brain knows that you're safe, which closes your lid, gets that prefrontal cortex back engaged. So number 1, when you are triggered, breathe.
And I think as a leader, as a parent, you could totally do this in a meeting, right? Like you're in a meeting and things are getting really tense. The team's, something's going, just everyone's going to pause. We're going to do 3 deep breaths, right? Like together and count it out. You could do that with your kid. Like I've got a kid who goes deep into, has got big feelings and they explode out sometimes like once a day. And this exercise of just like, hey, I'm going to hold your hands and we're just going to breathe. And just like, right, it lets everything come down. You need it too. So I love it. You can use it for yourself, but use it for your world.
I love that. See, y'all listening, are you so glad that we added Kimber and Tiffany? Can I just tell you, like, are you so happy right now? I'm so happy right now. I'm loving learning this, but I'm also just so happy that we have you both on here because this is so valuable to all of our listeners and to me too. So thank you. I love it. So number 2, right? So we've talked about breathing. Right. So you've been breathing and you've centered yourself. And the next thing you need to do is to ground yourself in the present, where we are today. And the best way for you to get your prefrontal cortex back engaged over your thumb is something that's called grounding. And it helps you come into the present moment and back into balance. And it just really brings some serious awareness around how your body is feeling, which again brings your limbic system back to calm. So what you're going to do is I want you to think about your 5 senses, and we're going to run through them. So let's do it right now. If you don't remember your 5 senses, it's okay. I'm about to tell you. So don't worry if you don't remember them. Okay. I'm sure no one listening is stressed right now. No one's stressed right now. Everything's fine.
You just flipped someone's lid. You just flipped somebody's lid. They're like terrified. I'm going to forget a sense.
Okay. No one's stressed, but let's just pretend maybe one of us is stressed. I don't know. It's a very possible assumption that someone listening could be stressed right now. So what we're going to do is, I want you in the grounding part of it, right? I want you to notice how your body feels right this second. So for each of you, how are you feeling right this second? How do you feel? We're going to do it together. How are you feeling?
I can too. Yeah. What's interesting when you think about yoga, right? They tell you put your feet on the ground, like you say ground, right? Like
put your feet on the ground.
Like uncross my legs, put my feet on the ground. Yeah.
I feel like a little knot right in between my rib cage, right there. Okay, so you feel how your body feels, right? Notice that. Okay, so we're gonna start with. I want you to open your eyes. If you're driving, make sure your eyes are open, and I want you to observe what you can see. So I want you to notice 5 things that you can see right now. What are 5 things you can see? I can see both of you.
I can see a bright pink Post-it note.
Okay.
I have a red notebook.
Okay.
Ooh, that's nice.
I can see our COVID dog, Tari. He's right here, of course, right by my side. What else can you see?
I can see my water bottle and my AirPods case and a picture of my friends.
Ooh, I like that. I'm staring at Her Best Life mug that has my delicious tea in it. And my fig tree over here that I'm trying to keep alive. What else? Kimber, what else do you see?
I've got a beautiful piece of art because I'm in Pittsburgh for an ice hockey tournament. So lovely art.
Okay. So we're all noticing things that we can see. All right. Next, I want you to notice the four things you can touch. What can you touch right now?
Touch my jeans.
My desk. Yeah. Okay. My pants.
I'm touching my fingers back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
I can touch my desk. What else are you
Could touch
touching?
my microphone, but that would be disruptive.
Don't do
Yes.
that. Don't do that to people's ears.
I'm in a
I can
swirly
touch my
chair,
cutie
so I can
pie
touch it.
earrings.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
touching
Oh,
Quinn's
yeah.
earrings that she made, her cutie pie earrings. Oh, yeah, your chair. That's a good one.
Mhm.
Oh, I can touch my hair scrunchie. Okay.
And to your point, Kimber, I just took my shoes off and now I can touch the floor. I can feel the floor with my
Physically.
actual feet.
Okay,
Yeah.
I love that. We're going to move to our next sense, which is I want you to notice 3 things you can hear. Do you notice we're counting down? 5, 4, 3. So what are 3 things you can hear? You can hear
There's
us.
a car backing up down my street.
I hear white noise from the air conditioner.
I've got white noise too.
I just heard Tari groan. I think he's over it.
See, this is where your brain really has to engage in the present, and it takes you away from whatever the other stuff is. Because
Yeah.
3 sounds sometimes,
3,
depending on where
the
you are,
sounds
is
are a
hard.
little trickier. Yeah, especially if it's in a quiet room, you really have to get in touch with that. Okay, and I can hear a bird. I got my 3. Did you guys get your 3? Okay. All right, here's 2 things you can smell. And if you have seasonal allergies, this will really be a fun challenge for you. What are 2 things you can smell? Ooh, I like that. I can
You don't
smell
want to
my
know what I'm
shampoo.
smelling.
I was going to say, you're in a hockey room. I'm
I'm
not sure
in
that
a
we
hockey
want to
room
know.
with a bunch of 14-year-old boys, so it is not pleasant.
We're not going to share what Kimber's smelling right now. I
can smell my hair. I saw you do that,
shampoo.
Seychelle.
Yep, I can smell my
Yep.
shampoo. Yep. Oh, I can smell the toast that was made. Nick made toast earlier. I can smell the bread from the toast. Okay, last one, right? What's one thing you can taste?
I have my drink right here.
Okay,
There's some water.
our tea, water, right? Okay. All right. So I don't know about you all, but when I had to go through that level of 5 different senses and counting down the things that I was doing, I really couldn't think about the stress that I had when I noticed where what my body was feeling with the first part. Like that knot didn't stay with me in my chest the whole rest of those 5 senses. How about y'all?
And mine's gone now.
Yeah,
In my
I was gonna
lower
say, I feel
back.
like a
Mine's gone.
release. Yep.
Yeah, mine's gone. So
How crazy
that's
is
really
that?
interesting. That's crazy. So when you're grounding, literally, I loved your visual of the 2 of you with your feet on the floor. You're literally grounding through your 5 senses to release the body pressure or to release that feeling of that fight or flight that you might be feeling if your prefrontal cortex is not engaged yet. So that's what grounding is. And grounding is going through your 5 senses to see what you observe, feel, smell, touch, and hear to help you be able to alleviate some of that stress, to get back into engaged and being present in the moment.
Because when you're also present, you understand if it's a threat or not, like we talked about. Like you get that text that says we need to talk, you breathe to get your brain engaged, and then you become aware of the moment in time where you are, and you realize, oh, there is no threat here.
Yeah.
Your brain says you're safe. Now you can deal with whatever
I love that.
needs to happen.
And that goes into 3, right? So you breathe, like you kind of reconnect in, you ground, and then you have an opportunity to respond in number 3, right? You're now coming back into the present, the text message, the response you're going to get, addressing the issue, handling the problem. Because so much of what we're doing, right? The bear is not chasing you up the tree, right? That's not happening. So now you get to actually, your prefrontal cortex is back engaged and you're back online and you're able to really pull the lid back down and make the decision. Like you are now back in control. You're now driving the bus and you're able to really make a good decision about whatever the problem, whatever that perceived threat was that sort of had you completely flooded. What I think is also interesting as leaders is that's like beautiful. What we just described is absolutely beautiful. And in a perfect world, that's what we get to do. We get to do all these things. But the reality is like we actually do a lot of compartmentalizing. We do a lot of compartmentalizing. That means we can't actually do all those things. Something has actually triggered you, but you still have to use the best of what you have in that moment to respond. And you're going to put whatever's triggered you to the side and you're going to move on. You just got a crazy call. Something's happening at home, but you're getting ready to walk into a meeting with your entire team. You've got 100 people sitting in there waiting for you. You don't don't have actually a minute to do all of these things. And so you're going to compartmentalize the thing that is creating the threat, and you're going to be able to move on. And we do that all day long. I think the challenge that we don't often do as leaders is go back and revisit. Like, right, if you think about these as like little chest all over, like little like war chest. And so you put it in the box and you put the lid on really tight. And a lot of times we just want to stack the lid in, and we haven't actually gone back and popped the lid out and revisited what's there. Like, think about it like you shook up a Coke bottle. Like it's going to come out, and you want to be able to come out in a way that you can manage it through the time and space to be able to do it. But the reality is that you got to go back and revisit what you've compartmentalized to work through that place where you're in control of being able to make the decision.
Yeah, I think that's often a thing as leaders when we have to compartmentalize, which isn't as often as I do. Like, if I'm being totally honest, this whole I have to compartmentalize this, it really is very rare that I do need to do that. Because this only breathing takes 30 seconds. Grounding takes a minute. Like, you really can do that through most of this stuff. However, there are those moments where you have to just put a lid on it, but you got to commit to coming back to it for sure.
Something it makes me think about too, to give yourself just a quick breathing space that I don't do, that I really should, is when somebody brings something to you that's a pop of a surprise, which can happen, or a, hey, do you got a minute kind of a text, or they show up at your office door, right? Can I talk to you for a second? And you're getting ready to have something really stressful of a conversation, or somebody like just vomits, whatever their stress is at you, is to kind of actually use what you can see as sense, right? And hold as an opportunity to say, yes, I would love to talk with you about this. Let me go refill my drink really quick and I'll be right back. Or let me run to the restroom really quick and I'll be right back. And that would actually buy you a minute to 3 minutes of grounding, like breathing, like to choose how you want to respond, to give you a couple seconds to do that. And I don't do that enough, but it makes me think that's a really easy trick I could do fast, that would allow me that time to then go through a couple of those exercises to choose how I want to respond to something.
Yeah. Well, and Seychelle, we've talked about this before. Like, you and I are very fast processors. And so I've always thought, well, I know what to do. Like, I know how to respond because I've already processed this so quickly. But the reality is, physiologically, you're still under stress. You have your prefrontal cortex offline. You're still flipped. And so a rule that I've created for myself is I can't respond immediately to something like that. Like
you have a guardrail on it.
Yes. I say, all right, I have to wait 5 minutes to respond to any of this.
Ooh, I love that.
And it has saved me from flipping somebody else's lid. Like, they flipped my lid, and so the way I respond does that to them.
Well, and just so you know, when Tiffany says that we both like process quickly, what she's saying, and I think we both have this in our top 5 strengths finders, is oftentimes when you have strategic and activator, if you've ever taken the Gallup Strengths Finders assessment, if you have those 2 in your top 5, it's very common for you to process information up to 33 times faster than most humans do. And what I don't want to get confused with that is that we're highly reactive. I don't know that you or I are both incredibly reactive people, but we receive information very quickly and process it really quickly. So sometimes to people, we actually look like we're highly reactional, but what actually is happening is we have processed it so quickly that what's coming back out has been very, very fast in the process loop from a logic standpoint. And when we explain that to our admin team, like when Anna Kruger did our strengths finders, our whole admin team goes, oh my gosh, I thought Seychelle was shooting from the hip all the time. You mean to tell me that she actually, like, all of this is logic? I was like, hello. Like, it really validated me as a human. But I do think if you are someone that does that, making sure then that when you are responding and I love that 5 minutes, because it's giving that time not to flip somebody else's lid if you happen to be a high speed processor. So that's great. I needed to hear that today. Thank you for that. That's awesome. That's a great tip.
Yeah. So true. And I think it's sort of a head-heart connection too. Like the processing in that that this exercise allows us to go through when you breathe and you ground. Sometimes you might be processing something quickly. Like I'm a crisis responder. Like I'm trained that way. That's my world before this. So like I can jump into something and be completely detached emotionally at the heart level from what's actually happening. And what I love about this process is it actually does allow you, when you think about going back and unpacking with the compartments, a lot of that's about the heart processing, right? Because you now have the skills to sort of allow your brain to realize, hey, I didn't have to avoid that or put it in the compartment because I didn't want to feel the hard feeling that came with it, right? Because then you can actually say like, okay, I can acknowledge it, I can process it. And I think that actually allows us to even deepen our level of engagement, connection, decision-making.
Yeah. Well, one of the, like how this all started for me was actually, it wasn't applying to myself. I've applied all the knowledge to myself, but it was actually taught to me by a coach because I was having trouble because none of my people were really improving. And he taught me this. He taught me the hand thing and all of that, because just like we're talking about your lid being flipped, all of the people in your world have the prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, all these same instincts that happen to them. So, in that story, like I can be pretty intense. I communicate pretty directly. And so my coach helped me see that I was basically flipping everybody's lid and they couldn't improve because they couldn't think. They were surviving. Like when they were interacting with me, it was, I set off their survival mode because of how I communicated with them. So I don't necessarily tell people, okay, I need you to breathe. Okay, I need you to ground. Like I just recognize, what do I need to do to keep their prefrontal cortex engaged? How do I need to change how I communicate with them so that they do not feel a threat from me? Because in the end, it isn't a threat, but it's a perceived threat to them. And so, things like compliments. I don't need compliments, and so I don't give them out very well or very naturally. And I've learned now that I can find something like everybody deals better when they get a compliment. Like you can keep people feeling safe with compliments. And so like that's something that I've instituted. No matter what a complete mess I am walking into, I now find something where I'm like, they've screwed everything up. And I'm like, well, I'm glad that you're bringing me into it at this moment. Great job bringing me in at this, like start with something. And then they are not triggered and they can hear what I say. They can learn and improve. So I've seen that with my people to either keep their fingers down and their prefrontal cortex engaged, or even recognizing when I have triggered them and giving them the time that I don't need, but that they need to calm down. To your point, Seychelle, like I'm going to go get water really quickly to just leave them to, even if they don't know to breathe and to ground, it still gives them a moment to hopefully calm down when I've unintentionally flipped somebody's lid.
Well, I love that. And I think too, Tiff, you said it, right? Like you're not going to say like, sometimes with our kids, we'll say, take a deep breath. Like we can just like directively, like take a deep breath. Right. Your teen, that can actually sound pretty condescending. I need you to breathe right now, right? So I think this idea of even the vulnerability, I just need a minute to breathe. I'm just going to take a minute, take a deep breath, like just to help me bring back this conversation. Sometimes when we go inward with the vulnerability of what we need, then you're creating a model as opposed to like maybe recognizing that they probably need that too. But us just telling them that that's what they need is actually further triggers, right? Further flips the lid because it's not creating safe. It's like, oh God, here's Tiffany who figured it all out and telling me exactly what to do versus just owning, I'm going to just do a quick walk, go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, take a deep breath, and I'll be right back. Then what they choose to do with those 3 minutes is theirs, but you've kind of modeled what it could look like.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Okay, so the most encouraging part of everything that I've learned with the vagal nerve, vagal, I just feel
Vagal and bagels.
Autocorrect, got it. The vagal nerve is you can tone your vagal nerve. Like what? You can teach it to calm you faster. The more that you activate your vagal nerve, the more it calms you. So it will help you quickly move from stress to your normal psychological state with the prefrontal cortex engaged. It That teaches your body that just because something feels intense, it doesn't necessarily equate to bad. Because that's the one thing, like we cannot live a stress-free life. No one on this planet can live a stress-free life. What we want to learn is how to recover more quickly from the stress and understand when there's a real threat and when there's only a perceived threat.
Yeah, I love that. And there are actually some practices. Research has shown us there's some practices that can help you improve and tone this vagal nerve, right? So, and one of them you guys might be familiar with. If you're in sales, you've probably done some of these sales skills, right? To bring down some of the anxiety when you're getting ready to go into a different appointment. We talked about changing state. So really shaking any part of the body that's feeling tense or needs additional activation. You feel this, right? Like, so it's what we tell people, like, get up, everybody move around. You may be going into something, you'll see people like do a big clap. Like people have different motions that they do right before they ever always go into a listing appointment. Just, it not only, I think, creates the calm, but also reinforces the confidence that you're safe. You've got this. You know what you're doing. So those are sort of a physical way that you could do it. You also, yoga and meditation. We're going to talk a little bit some of our experiences with that, but really creating space to actually go inward and to actually check in, scan the body. What are you feeling? And having some practices that can help you, whether that's through guided or through your own meditation journey. Humming and singing, which I thought was fun, right? Just like things that, again, are taking you out of this head and sort of allowing your body to come back in to a place where you can make really good decisions.
Have you guys seen the Spider-Man movie? Not the one that's about to come out, but the one right before that?
No.
If you haven't, it's the latest Marvel one. It's so good. You have to go see it. And the younger Spider-Man that they've introduced I'm not ruining anything because this is like the very beginning, but he gets stuck to with a Spidey, it's like a spider webby situation. He gets stuck to one of the light fixtures in a place they're breaking into. And it's like this huge light fixture and he's swinging up there and he can't release, like he hasn't learned how to release the stickiness yet. And he talks to the other Spider-Man and he's like, how do I get rid of this? How do I get rid of this? And he's like, I don't know. What do you do to relieve stress? And all of a sudden he starts going like, doo, 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 like he starts singing. And all of a sudden, like he's like singing and they're like in this like really stressful moment. And so he's like, oh my gosh, are you literally having to do this right now? And he's literally like singing this whole song to and it starts unpeeling him bit by bit. But it makes me think about that, right? That's how he literally,
science.
If Spider-Man can do it, you can do it too. So
well, I think of kids, like before you have inhibition and social awareness, think of how often kids use singing to calm themselves. I mean, I have vivid memories in elementary school when I was like stressed walking between classes, like humming or singing to myself because that's just a release. I didn't know it was science. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love it. Extremely cool.
Well, for our divers, right, there's the diver's response, being able to splash cold water on your face, hold your breath, really you could actually do different things that sort of create that both shock factor, but also allow you to kind of come back in. And then we talked about at the beginning, being really focused in your breathing. We've all heard of box breathing, right? Belly breathing, really taking some minutes to really connect like with that vagal nerve and bring it back. And say you have like a breathing alarm, right? Like you have
Tell us about that.
I have a breathing alarm.
How does that work?
I do like this. The last couple of years were just like so off the wall. And I was in just such like probably not prefrontal cortex like for a lot of the last couple of years that I needed like actual reminders to ground myself or to like come back into reality. And so I like, no joke, y'all, like 7 times a day, I had an alarm going off on my phone that was a breathing alarm that literally would go off and I'd be like, okay, whatever I'm doing, I need to stop whatever I'm doing. It doesn't matter what it is. And just take some deep breaths and like, just kind of chill it back out. And if you're in a mode in your life right now where it is just really stressful all the time to you and you feel like you're just having trouble wrapping around it, I'll tell you that was an easy hack that really helped me be able to stay focused and get back engaged with my prefrontal cortex and think more clearly about situations because I wasn't in fight or flight the entire time. So it just helped me ground. So yeah, hey, whatever works, right?
Oh, for sure. Meditation was huge for me. I didn't think I could meditate. Like I didn't think that was a thing that I could do because I don't have a calm brain. Like that's not an easy thing for me. And it's interesting. The most valuable part of learning to meditate, which I started with an app called Calm, highly recommend, because it actually has to do with the loving kindness that you give yourself in meditation. So it's basically the point of meditation, or what I've taken away from meditation is not, can you clear your brain for 5 minutes? Like, can you control your thoughts and bring yourself to the present and not think about anything, but you're breathing for 5 minutes? That's not actually it. The value for me was when I found myself thinking about something else, her prompts would be like, now I bet you're thinking about something else. So don't beat yourself up, and with loving kindness, come back to your breathing. And it made me realize how much my inner dialogue was like, oh, you loser, you've done it again. You failed at meditation. Like, you cannot do this. And just learning to have loving kindness to myself in my brain has helped me a ton. So yes, it's helped me focus. I couldn't stop. That's that 5-minute tip that I gave you before meditating. There was zero chance that I could have done that, because I would have said my impulse and instinct is too strong, and I know that I've processed it. And so I know that I can respond quickly to things. But now I've learned I can give it a beat. And when I don't give it a beat and I screw up whatever that thing was and I respond incorrectly, I don't have to beat myself up. With loving kindness, I come back and say, well, that's not what I'm going to do next time. And that calms me.
I love that. I've really focused on environment, right? Like, I don't know how many of you guys, you sleep with your phone. It's the last thing you look at before you go to bed. It's the first thing you look at before you wake up. And so you're inviting in the fight or flight, because how many of us, like, you open your phone, you check your email, and oh my God, there's a problem. Something has happened. A client's upset. Somebody's like, something's going on in the world. Or maybe you're not looking at the phone, you're looking at the news, right? And so I found that just by protecting the brain space in the beginning of the morning, not looking at my phone, which is, again, I give myself a lot of grace. I don't do it but I work hard to not open an email or an app or a social media before 7 a.m., which means I get up, I get to have a gratitude practice, I get to work out, I get to do the things that allow me to connect, to ground before you invite in the things. We're not going to not have stress. These are strategies to overcome them. So for me, that was like a morning hack that just allowed me to have a sense of that calm before the day and the whirlwind was going to just take off, which we're going to then require all of these strategies to continue to go forward.
Love that. All right. Anything else that's been life-changing for either of you? What have been your big takeaways, knowing your brain and bodies are connected like that?
Well, I love that. I was just going to share, we do have an episode on your morning routine. That's a good one, that if you haven't listened to that, it's a great one. And I will put in the show notes the episode so you can go find it. That is around protecting, like Kimber said, protecting your space in the morning and setting yourself up for success in the day. I think for me, there's two things. I think number one is being aware that how I handle stress could be very different from how somebody else handles it. And how I process it, I need to be aware that somebody else, even though logically I get that, I think just on like a basic human level, I could be even more aware of being like gracious and mindful that I need to give people a hot minute to process when we're in the middle of stress. Because I tend to, like you said, Tiffany, just push through it. So that for me, I think is a really big one. That I need to be doing.
Yeah. And the power of just breathing. It seems so simple, but like just that, the vagal nerve, like the vagal nerve, we're friends now. So
yes.
Well, and it's not airy-fairy. That to me is like the biggest thing of learning this. It's not just like, oh, a calm breath should calm you down. Like if you can center yourself, then the breathing. No, there's like science. Your belly is pushing against your stomach, against your spine, against this nerve that goes to your brain. Like, we are such connected people, and recognizing that is helping me a ton. So I am so glad to have gone on this journey with you ladies about our brains, knowing that we are going to try to get our vagal nerve toned so that when we interact with stress, because we know we're going to have stress, we know our lids are going to get flipped, prefrontal cortex is going to come offline. We have strategies now to calm yourself. So favorite this episode, share it with a friend, because these are really practical, tactical things that you won't remember the first time or the second time or the third time. And so this will be one you want to listen to again and again as this becomes more normal for you. So yeah, I cannot wait. Give us comments about how you see this in your life too.
I love it, Tiffany. This is amazing. Well, you all go out there and build your big business and most importantly, your even bigger life. And now you have some great stress tools to use in your tool belt tool. Thanks for listening and we'll catch you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.